Attack on Titan 121 is one of the best chapters we've gotten so far. And that's saying a lot because Attack on Titan up to this point and beyond has had some amazing chapters during our current arc. This chapter does so much for the characters in the story. Everything really comes full circle, and it serves as excellent insight into the future, specifically on what the ending could possibly be. From the moment I read this chapter, I knew I had to make a video on it. But what could I bring to the table? What can I say that hasn't been said before? Then something hit me. Something that hasn't been talked about, at least not in great detail in my opinion. Jean Kirstein. Jean is essentially the central focus of this chapter. In fact, I'd argue that this was his chapter, with other details of the story sprinkled in. Before we go into this chapter, let's talk about Jean a little bit. When we first see Jean in the series, he's selfish and cowardly, longing for a life in the military police, behind closed walls, sipping wine, and living life comfortably. Jean only cared about himself, his own well-being. He was also rather hot-headed. He would easily become frustrated and was quick to resort to violence when pushed. Him and Aaron would often get themselves into brawls over the pettiest of things during their time as trainees. He was also very cynical. He'd openly mock Aaron's idealistic views, as he saw fighting titans as a hopeless effort. That was until Marco died. Marco Bot, to many, would seem like a really minor character in the series, and I wouldn't fault you for thinking that way. But it doesn't do his character justice. In fact, I'd say Marco is very pivotal to not only Jean, but many characters in the series. And the effects of Marco's death are still felt to this day, this chapter being one of them. Marco is a very idealistic person. He values the good of the group above his own interests. He's also very good at understanding and coping with his own limitations. He too, like Jean, wanted to be a part of the military police, but for very different reasons. During his time as a trainee, Marco arguably is the first friend Jean ever had. Furthermore, Marco was the only person to see Jean's true potential. That was due in part to the fact that he was an excellent judge of character. On the outside, Jean is blunt, unapologetic. On the inside, he's a natural-born leader. Marco would often encourage Jean in this way. He was the person that brought out the best that Jean had to offer. And as I said before, the effects of his death are still felt today, on Jean specifically. That's why his death was a prime push for Jean to become better, not only as a soldier, but as a man. Isayama beautifully illustrates this when Marco died, and the panel is bone-chilling. The look of shock on Jean's face as he watched, arguably his best friend, slumped over, body half-eaten by a titan, was just terrifyingly beautiful. Marco's death was the driving force that pushed him forward as he decided to overcome his fear and selfishness, joining the Survey Corps.
So have you decided yet? Which regiment you're gonna join? I've made my choice. It'll be rough, but damn it! I'm gonna join the Scouts!
Earlier I mentioned Jean's cynicism and selfishness. On the outside, Jean was a person who seemingly cared for no one but himself, but that was never the case. Jean places very high value on the lives of others. He's ashamed and even horrified when he has to leave his helpless comrades behind in order to save not only himself, but the other soldiers that happened to be there at the same time.
How many bodies did I crawl over? How many of our comrades died on my orders?
He's averse to taking the lives of fellow humans. His moral principles prevent him from killing enemy soldiers initially, but as we saw in later portions of the series, it became inevitable. Jean's character development is some of the best in the series, but he wasn't always my favorite character. During Attack on Titan's original week-to-week run in 2013, most of these details flew over my head about Jean. Despite seeing Marco's death and even him joining the Survey Corps, he still came off as a coward to me. But that all changed forever when the female Titan was introduced. Continuing the events of the female Titan arc, Jean, Armin, and Reiner are in the possession of tailing the female Titan, who later we discover was actually Annie. While Armin and Reiner are fixated on her identity, Jean stops them. He speaks out. In an act of selflessness, He suggests that instead of worrying about why she's here, they should be focused on warning their allies about the threat this Titan in particular poses. Jean follows this up by suggesting that they distract her themselves. If they can work together, they could buy time for everyone else to withdraw. That's what he hopes anyway. Armin adds on to John's words. He describes the Titan as intelligent. She'd crush them on pure instinct. Jean's reaction is mortifying. The look on his face, the tone in his voice, he's terrified. But despite that, he carries on. That's when Reiner interjects and they have a wonderful exchange.
Seriously, what have you done with the real Jean? No offense, man, but the one I knew could only be counted on to look out for himself. Your people skills need work.
Believe me, friends, I'm still all about number one. I just don't want to end up a pile of bones and no one knows we're mine. The thing is, I get it now. I get what needs to be done if we're going to survive this fight. And last I checked, nobody forced us to take on this position. Now are you with me or not?
This to me was the exact moment Jean became one of my favorite characters. His conviction and selflessness being put on display for something bigger than himself. He became a man on that day, and ever since his character has continued to grow. Now on to the chapter at hand, 127, titled Night of the End. This chapter really slows down the pace of the manga, and it focuses for the most part on Jean. It starts with a panel of him, and it arguably ends with a panel of him. He learns truths that the audience had known for a very long time. The way he handles these truths shows his growth as a man. It's just another human aspect of the series. The chapter opens up on a dream of sorts, a look at what could have been or what could be. We see Jean enjoying some wine as he looks over the city from his balcony. We see his child and a woman. Her face is hidden, but from her long black hair we can assume it's Mikasa, as it somewhat resembles her look when she first joined the academy.
Naturally, I'll ask for a house in the Central District. I'll be gulping down the finest wine whether it be morning or noon. I won't take complaints from anyone. I'll let my wife, our children, and our grandchildren enjoy a life of happiness. We should have that right, shouldn't we? That's because we fought, with our lives on the line, that this island has a future. That's why we should brush it aside.
Hanji breaks the silence of Jean's daydream.
Jean! It's me. I'll be waiting outside.
Jean covers his ears and closes his eyes as if he's about to have a breakdown. The slither of his childhood cowardice tries to take over as he contemplates staying in this place. Then he could achieve the dream he always wanted in the Central District, living a comfortable life. However, both the reader and Isayama know that this isn't what Jean would do. The next page shows Jean in the darkness. As he meets up with Hanji and Mikasa, his face is defeated, almost regretful. The trio have a chat about their future and Eren's plan. Hanji is against the idea of destroying the world to protect the island of Parity. But Jean, whether it be fair and rightfully so, isn't against Eren's idea. He doesn't want to die. He doesn't want his friends to die. Stopping Eren would mean dooming the island. However, Hanji interjects. She screams.
Like hell there's a good reason to ever do that. You can't just massacre everyone.
What I really love about this exchange is the artwork that's on display. The way Isayama illustrates the dead comrades of the group in the back, he leaves a bit of ambiguity. We see Marco among the fallen, and we see Jean looking off at what would be his direction, behind Hanji. We even get a zoom up on his eyes. It begs the question, can Jean actually see Marco and all the fallen soldiers? Now this is where the chapter peaks, and that's saying a lot because the introduction was already fantastic. Our heroes are having a talk with the Marlians around the campfire, and this entire exchange serves as foreshadowing for things to come, which is indeed proven by the most recent chapters. Obviously there's turmoil between the two groups, but ultimately what we get here is closure for a lot of things, and by far the most important in my opinion, closure for Jean, a closure that he didn't know he needed until now. Jean went his entire life thinking Marco's undoing was due to Annie. It changed him as a character. It was his driving goal for changing his mindset and embracing a more idealistic approach he once criticized Eren for. In this chapter, old wounds are reopened as Jean learns the truth about Marco's death, all from the mouth of a man he used to call comrade, Reiner. Reiner reveals to Jean that he was the one responsible for Marco's death.
Reiner! What are you doing?
Hey, why is Marco being devoured?
Now, Reiner doesn't just come out and say it. Yelena was the one that actually brought up the conversation. Earlier, she began to remind the group of their sins, even though it was somewhat sly. Yelena asked John if he had ever asked Annie about Marco's death. This question, amidst everything that had happened prior, changed the atmosphere to a very palpable anxiety. Jean lowers the alcohol he was drinking. His grip on the bottle became loose. In the opposite panel, we see Reiner and Annie stunned. Reiner taking the focal point of the panel as to elevate the weight of his sin. Isayama's artwork really shines here. He has a knack for drawing pure dread in his characters with a simple line technique under the eyes of the character, followed by a somewhat deep shadow. Yelena continues her question, and she was right. Jean had not stopped to ask Annie what had happened. I suppose he had no right to. He already had gotten this closure somewhat a long time ago. However, before Annie could finish, she was cut off by Reiner. As if his guilt was speaking, he sang like a canary, retelling the events of Marco's death to Jean. Jean sat still for a moment as the traumatic image of Marco's half-eaten body flashes through his mind as Isayama gives us a beautiful close-up of his face, sinking in everything that he's feeling. The anxiety, the sadness, regret, anger. The panel is drawn from a top-down view of everyone together, doing the exact same thing Marco had said to Reiner, talking it out. That's when Jean had an epiphany. Marco's words were too obvious, so elaborating on Marco's last words, stating that if they had talked it out from the very start, they wouldn't have to kill each other. Hanji interjects with a beautiful line followed up by more of Isayama's fantastic artwork.
Who could have imagined this? That we would eat together around a fire?
And almost on cue, Reiner flips his switch and continues when the conversation has clearly come to an end, trying to communicate to Jean the remorse he feels about Marco's death, going on about the origin of his split personality. Jean tries to stop the conversation in its tracks, but Reiner keeps going until Jean had had enough and gave into his rage. Jean flies over to Reiner and begins to brutally beat his face in, having to be restrained by the others. If Reiner hadn't been a Titan shifter, Jean surely would have killed him. The following page shows us how Jean deals with the aftermath of everything, crying to himself. This is the first time we've seen Jean cry. The next few pages were great. We get a little conversation with Reiner and Jean, completely closing off the chapter. He makes it clear that he's not apologizing to Reiner.
Reiner, I will not apologize to you.
However, the highlight of the small conversation is when Jean bows his head and says,
I cannot forgive you.
Reiner simply replies, I know. Honestly, this chapter did a lot for Attack on Titan, but this isn't the video for that. I'm Grim Toki, this has been Beyond Animation, and thank you to everyone that helped me out on this video. Lending me your voices was a big help. I'll leave your socials here so people can contact you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.